It started like any ordinary night. A quiet bedroom, a single mirror, and a young girl brushing her hair before bed. But what happened next wasn't ordinary at all. When she looked into the mirror, she noticed something off, a faint delay, a flicker, almost like her reflection was thinking for itself. And when she leaned closer, the girl in the mirror didn't follow. Instead, she smiled. A slow, knowing smile that she didn't make. What would you do if your reflection started behaving like it had a mind of its own? Would you run? Scream? Smash the mirror to pieces? This is the chilling story of the girl in the mirror. A mystery that blurs the line between superstition, psychology, and something far darker than either. Because once you understand where reflections truly come from, you'll never look in a mirror the same way again. Chapter 1. The night it began. It was a rainy evening, the kind that makes the world outside feel distant, like everything beyond your window is dissolving into shadows. 16-year-old Lena sat cross-legged on her bed, the faint hum of her desk lamp the only sound in the room. Her phone lay face down beside her. For once, she wasn't scrolling, just thinking. Her eyes drifted toward the mirror across the room, a tall, vintage frame she'd found in the attic a few weeks earlier. It was beautiful in a strange, old-fashioned way, the kind of mirror that seemed like it had seen too much. Lena stood up, brushing her hair, and that's when she noticed it. A flicker, a pause. Her reflection hesitated for half a heartbeat before mimicking her. She froze, blinked, tried again. This time, the reflection moved perfectly in sync. She laughed nervously, blaming her tired eyes or maybe the dim light. But something deep in her chest, instinct, maybe whispered that something was off. As she turned away, she swore she heard it, the faintest scrape like fingernails against glass. Lena spun around. The mirror was still. Her reflection stared back, eyes wide, a little too wide. Outside, thunder rolled, shaking the window pane. And in that single flash of lightning, she thought she saw her reflection smile first. Chapter 2. A flicker in the glass. For the next few days, Lena couldn't stop thinking about what she'd seen. That eerie smile, or whatever it was, replayed in her mind like a glitch she couldn't unsee. But the more she tried to convince herself it was nothing, the stranger things became. It started small. She'd pass by the mirror and catch a glimpse of herself. Only not quite. Sometimes her reflection's eyes seemed to linger a little too long after she'd looked away. Other times, her reflection's posture seemed just slightly different, shoulders tilted, head angled, as if it were studying her. One afternoon, sunlight streamed through the window, lighting up the room in gold. Lena glanced at the mirror and saw her reflection blink twice. She hadn't blinked at all. Her heart stopped. She backed away slowly, staring at the glass. Nothing. Still as ever. Her mother's voice called from downstairs, snapping her out of her trance. She laughed it off, trying to sound normal. Yeah, coming. But as she turned to leave, something caught her eye, a faint movement, almost invisible, behind the reflection. Like someone else was standing behind the glass, just out of sight. And for the briefest moment, she could have sworn she saw a second shadow moving in there, too. Chapter 3. The House with Too Many Mirrors. The house Lena lived in wasn't new. In fact, it was too old. Creaking wood floors, uneven ceilings, and a faint smell of dust that clung to the walls no matter how often her mother cleaned. It had been in her family for generations, passed down through quiet inheritances and whispered stories no one liked to retell. Her grandmother used to call it a house that remembers. Lena never understood what that meant until now. Once she started noticing the mirror's strange behavior, she realized something. There were mirrors everywhere. Hallways, bedrooms, even the stair landing had one. Some large and elegant, others small and cracked, but all unervingly placed, facing each other in ways that made the house feel like a maze of endless reflections. One evening, she decided to test a theory. She stood in the hallway where two mirrors faced each other and peered down the infinite tunnel of her own reflections. Dozens of her faces, fading into darkness. But in the 10th or 11th reflection, one of them didn't move. Lena's breath hitched. She leaned closer, squinting. And then that reflection tilted its head ever so slightly in the opposite direction. The light flickered. When it steadied, the reflection was back to normal, or pretending to be. And from that night on, Lena began to hate the feeling of being watched in her own home. Chapter 4. When the reflection spoke. By now, Lena avoided the mirror in her room entirely. She'd cover it with a blanket before sleeping, but somehow, every morning, the blanket was on the floor, neatly folded. She never heard it fall, never saw it move. But the mirror was always uncovered, waiting. One night, she decided to record it, just to prove to herself she wasn't losing her mind. She set her phone on her desk, lens pointed toward the mirror, and hit record before climbing into bed. The next morning, her phone was dead, battery drained completely. But when she plugged it in, the screen flickered to life, showing an image that made her blood run cold. It was her, sleeping. And behind her, inside the mirror, her reflection was standing up. Not lying down, not still, standing, watching, heart pounding. She looked up at the mirror in real life. Her reflection stared back, still, silent, normal. But then, just as she leaned closer, her reflection's lips moved. Only once, whispering something she didn't say. Lena stumbled backward, gasping. She didn't hear the words clearly, but it sounded like, "Don't turn away." She ran out of the room, slamming the door behind her. And from the other side of the glass, faint but unmistakable, came a single knock. Chapter 5. The Family's Denial. By the next morning, Lena's nerves were frayed. She hadn't slept. Every creak of the house felt amplified, every reflection threatening. So when she finally told her parents what was happening, she expected alarm, maybe even fear. But instead they laughed. Her father shook his head. "You've been watching too many horror movies." Her mother smiled softly, the way people do when they think you're imagining things. "Honey, mirrors can't smile. You were half asleep." Lena tried to protest, explaining about the recording, the whisper, the knock. But when she opened her camera roll, the video was gone, deleted. Her parents exchanged a look, the kind that said she's stressed, not haunted. That evening, her younger brother Jake teased her, making faces in front of the mirror. "Hey, maybe your twin will come say hi." He laughed until he froze. Lena saw his expression change. His smile faded. "What is it?" she asked. Jake stepped back, pale. "For a second, I thought I saw someone behind me." Their mother sighed. "Enough with this mirror nonsense." She pulled Jake away and covered the mirror with a sheet again. But as Lena watched, she noticed something horrifying. The sheet moved slightly from the inside, as if someone beneath it had just exhaled. Chapter 6. The Mirror Maker's Curse. That night, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that the mirror was more than just haunted. It was designed that way. She started digging through the attic again, searching for clues about where it came from. Among stacks of yellowed papers and boxes of forgotten keepsakes, she found a fragile, dust-covered ledger. Inside were hand-drawn sketches of ornate mirrors, each signed by someone named Elias Werner, dated 1892. At first, she thought he was just an artist, but a folded newspaper clipping tucked between the pages told a darker story. Local craftsman disappears after claiming to have built a mirror that captures souls. The article described Werner as obsessed with the idea of reflections being fragments of life, echoes of the soul that could, under the right conditions, be contained. He believed mirrors weren't passive at all, but gateways. Lena's hands trembled as she traced the faded ink. The sketch of one mirror in particular looked identical to hers. The same curling frame, the same engravings at the edges. At the bottom of the page, Werner had written a single line in slanted handwriting. "Do not let her look too long." A chill ran through her. Who was her? And what did he mean, too long? As thunder cracked outside, Lena suddenly realized the mirror downstairs had started to hum. Chapter 7. Echoes of the Past. The next morning, Lena couldn't ignore the sound anymore. The mirror downstairs emitted a low, steady hum, so faint it could have been mistaken for the wind. But it wasn't. It vibrated through the floorboards, subtle yet alive, like the house itself was breathing. Determined to know more, Lena returned to the ledger. On the final pages, she found what looked like personal notes written by Elias Werner himself. Frantic, uneven handwriting, as if scribbled in panic. The reflection listens. Do not answer her. Once she speaks your name, it's already begun. There were also references to other families, dates, locations, initials, each followed by the same chilling note. Mirror claimed. Lena cross-checked the names online. To her horror, several of them were real. Families that had mysteriously vanished or died under strange circumstances in the early 1900s. And many of those reports mention mirrors. Her pulse quickened. The pattern was undeniable. That night, she dreamed of Elias Werner, a pale man standing behind a wall of mirrors, whispering warnings she couldn't fully hear. His eyes pleaded with her. When she woke, the mirror across the room was fogged over, though the air was cold and still. And written faintly in the mist, as if drawn by invisible fingers, were two words. Chapter 8. The Girl in the Photo. The next day, Lena brought the ledger downstairs, determined to show her mother. But before she could, something else caught her eye, an old family photo hanging crooked on the living room wall. She'd passed by it 1,000 times before without a second thought. But today, something was different. She stepped closer, heart pounding. The photo showed her grandmother as a child, standing beside a mirror, the same mirror. Its carved frame, its pattern of ivy and roses, identical. But what froze Lena wasn't the mirror. It was the faint figure reflected inside it. A girl. Her age. Her face. Her eyes. She stumbled backward, gasping. It couldn't be. The photo was nearly 80 years old. Grabbing a magnifying glass from the drawer, she leaned closer. The reflection's features were unmistakable. It looked exactly like her. "Mom," she shouted, "you need to see this." Her mother sighed, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What now, sweetheart?" Lena pointed at the photo. "Look, the girl, that's me." Her mother frowned. "Lena, that's impossible. That photo's from your great-grandmother's house, long before any of us were born." But Lena barely heard her, because at that exact moment, she noticed something else. The glass on the photo frame shimmered just slightly, and her reflection inside it blinked. Only once, and not in sync. Chapter 9. Whispers Behind the Glass. That night, the whispers began. They started as soft murmurs, the kind you might mistake for wind slipping through a crack. But these carried rhythm, cadence, words. Lena sat up in bed, every nerve alive. She couldn't make out full sentences, just fragments. "Come closer, almost free. You see me, don't you?" She clutched her blanket, staring at the mirror's dim outline across the room. The whispers grew clearer, multiple voices now, overlapping in eerie harmony. Some sounded young, others much older. The mirror's surface rippled faintly, as though water shimmered beneath the glass. And then she heard her own name. "Lena," she gasped. "Who's there?" The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Then a whisper right behind her ear. "Behind you." Lena spun around, but no one was there. Her lamp flickered, casting moving shadows that stretched unnaturally across the walls. She ran to her door, locked. She didn't remember locking it. When she turned back, her reflection was already standing closer in the mirror, impossibly close. The face pressed against the glass, eyes black and hollow, whispering the same word over and over. "Closer, closer." The whisper became a scream, sharp and shrill, cracking the air like glass under pressure. And just before Lena collapsed in fear, the sound stopped. The mirror was silent again. Too silent. Chapter 10. The Sleepwalking Incident. The next morning, Lena woke up on the floor, cold, trembling, and disoriented. The blanket was tangled around her legs, her door wide open, and the mirror uncovered again. She didn't remember getting up, didn't remember anything. Her mother found her sitting at the foot of the bed, pale as chalk. "Honey, what happened?" I think I was sleepwalking," Lena stammered. "But I don't sleepwalk." Her mother exchanged a worried glance with her father, who shrugged it off. "You're stressed, kiddo. You've been watching too many of those paranormal videos." But later that day, while her parents argued downstairs, Lena scrolled through the security app linked to the living room camera. At around 3:14 a.m., There she was walking slowly down the hallway, barefoot, eyes open but empty. The footage made her skin crawl. She stopped in front of the mirror, and for several long seconds, she just stood there. Then, her reflection reached out first. Lena's real hand followed, trembling toward the glass. When their fingers met, the feed glitched, static, distortion, black screen. When the video returned, Lena was gone. The mirror was empty. She slammed the laptop shut, her heart racing. Outside her window, something reflective caught her eye, a shimmer in the glass, like someone waving from the inside. And this time, she didn't wave back. Chapter 11, Breaking Point. By now, Lena's world had narrowed to one thing: the mirror. She stopped hanging out with friends, stopped answering texts, even stopped eating properly. Every hour, every minute, her mind circled back to that silent, waiting surface in her room. Her parents thought she was slipping into depression. Her father even threatened to remove the mirror, but when he tried to lift it off the wall, he couldn't. It wouldn't budge, like it was fused to the plaster itself. That was the moment he finally looked uneasy. Lena began taking notes, trying to document everything. The time she heard the whispers, the dates of the sleepwalking, the flickers of movement behind the glass. The pattern was undeniable. Every 3 nights, something new happened. Something stronger. And it was building towards something. On the 7th night, the whispering returned. Louder this time, almost frantic. Lena snapped. She grabbed a chair, lifted it above her head, and screamed as she swung it straight into the mirror. The crash echoed through the house. But the mirror didn't break. Not even a crack. Instead, the reflection smiled again, wide and triumphant, as if it had been waiting for her to try. And on the glass, faint words began to appear, written in dripping streaks of red. It's almost your turn. Chapter 12, The Paranormal Investigator. After that night, Lena's parents couldn't deny it anymore. Her father had seen the writing on the mirror himself, the red streaks that vanished by morning. No one spoke about it out loud, but the silence in the house was heavy, electric, like they all sensed the same unspoken truth. Something was inside that mirror. Desperate, her mother called in help. A man named Dr. Calder, a local paranormal investigator known for his work documenting haunted artifacts. He arrived with calm authority, carrying cameras, EMF meters, and an old tape recorder. When he first saw the mirror, he frowned. "You said this came from the attic?" Lena nodded. He ran his hand an inch from the glass, careful not to touch it. "This isn't an ordinary object," he murmured. "Mirrors like this were crafted as vessels, not decorations." He set up his recorder on a desk. "If there's a presence here," he said, clicking record, "you may speak." For a few seconds, nothing. Then, faint static. A soft hum. And then a whisper, clear as day. "Hello, Elias." Dr. Calder froze. "Elias Werner?" he whispered. The tape recorder hissed louder. Lena's blood turned cold. "That's the name of the mirror maker," she said quietly. Calder looked up, pale. "Then whoever's in there remembers him." Chapter 13, Reflections That Don't Match. After Dr. Calder's visit, the house no longer felt like home. It felt watched. Every mirror seemed charged, humming with quiet energy. Even their reflections stopped behaving normally. It began subtly. Lena brushed her hair and saw her reflection's lips moving, though her own mouth was still. Her mother caught her reflection, smiling, while she herself was frowning. And her father saw someone standing behind him in the bathroom mirror, though he was alone. Calder returned 2 nights later with new equipment, infrared cameras and motion sensors. He placed them in every room. If this house has multiple mirrors from the same craftsman, he warned, they may all be connected. That night, the recordings captured something strange. Each camera showed the family's reflections, except one. In the hallway mirror, Lena's reflection didn't appear at all, just empty glass. The next morning, Lena stood before it, staring at her absence. "Why can't I see myself?" she whispered. A voice, faint but unmistakable, replied from the glass. "Because you're not supposed to." She stumbled backward, heart hammering. The mirror rippled once, as though a hand had brushed against the inside. And then, for just an instant, she saw it. Dozens of faces staring back at her from the darkness beyond the reflection, all whispering in unison. Join us. Chapter 14. The Message in the Mist. The house had turned cold, unnaturally cold. Every morning, the windows were fogged from the inside, though no one had touched the thermostat. But the worst was the bathroom mirror. It began leaving messages. It started after Lena's shower one morning. Steam clung to the glass, and as she wiped it clear, words appeared beneath her hand, written in the condensation, as if traced by an unseen finger. "Let me out." She stumbled backward, nearly slipping on the tile. The message slowly faded, melting into the fog until the glass was blank again. Her mother didn't believe her, of course, but when she showered later that evening, she screamed. Lena ran in, and there was again. Only this time, new words had appeared beneath the first. "She's already here." Dr. Calder examined the mirror under UV light that night. Hidden streaks appeared, scratches, spirals, words etched deep beneath the surface. "It's layered," he murmured. "Someone, or something, has been writing for years." Lena's reflection looked calm. Too calm. She leaned forward, breath fogging the glass again. The mist shifted, forming a final phrase before her eyes. "You look like her." Her heart froze. "Like who?" she whispered. From a mirror, her reflection smiled, lips moving independently again. And though she heard no sound, she could read it perfectly. Chapter 15. A doorway, not a surface. Dr. Calder returned the next day, his usual confidence replaced with something Lena had never seen before: fear. He stood before the mirror, studying its surface under different lights, tracing its ornate frame with trembling fingers. "This isn't just reflective glass," he said quietly. "It's a threshold. Werner didn't build mirrors, he built doorways." Lena frowned. "Doorways to what?" He looked at her, his expression hollow. "Not where, Lena. Who?" He explained that Werner's journals spoke of a ritual, one that allowed the living to peer into the echo realm, a place between reflection and reality. But every attempt came with a risk. Something inside could reach back. Lena's pulse quickened. "You mean she's trying to cross over?" Calder nodded grimly. "And each time you engage, when you stare too long, when you speak, you make the barrier thinner." As he spoke, the mirror began to tremble softly, as if reacting to their conversation. Then the air shifted. The temperature dropped sharply. The surface rippled like liquid mercury. Calder stepped forward, his hand outstretched. "Don't touch it," Lena warned. But it was too late. His reflection grinned, before reaching through the glass and grabbing his wrist. Calder screamed, yanking back his arm, but the hand that emerged was no longer his own. It was hers. Chapter 16. The Girl Behind the Glass. For a long, frozen moment, no one moved. Dr. Calder stared in horror at his arm. Pale, slender, and unmistakably feminine. The skin was cold as frost, the veins faintly gray, like something pulled straight out of the mirror's world. Lena's breath hitched. "Oh my God." Calder stumbled back, clutching his arm. She's merging," he stammered. "She's using me as a conduit." The mirror began to vibrate violently, the hum growing into a deep, resonant wail. The lights flickered, glassware rattled off shelves, and the air smelled faintly of ozone, sharp, electric, alive. Then, from the mirror's surface, a shape began to form. A silhouette. A girl. She pressed her hand to the inside of the glass, her face slowly becoming visible. It was Lena, and yet not. Her eyes were black, her skin impossibly smooth, her smile wide and unblinking. She tilted her head in perfect synchronization, until suddenly, the real Lena looked away. The reflection didn't. It kept smiling, pressing harder against the glass, as if testing the limits. "Lena," Calder gasped, "don't look at her. That's not you. That's what's been waiting." But it was too late. The reflection's eyes locked onto hers, and in that instant, Lena felt a pull deep in her chest, like her soul was being reeled in. The girl behind the glass whispered, almost lovingly. Finally. Chapter 17. The Grandmother's Secret. The power went out right after that. The whole house plunged into darkness, except for one dim, unnatural glow coming from the mirror. Lena and Dr. Calder huddled in the hallway, both shaken. He wrapped his arm, or her arm now, in a towel, avoiding her terrified gaze. "This mirror, it's bonded to your bloodline," he muttered. "It's not random, Lena. It's chosen you." Her stomach twisted. "What do you mean, my bloodline?" "Calder sight. Whoever she is, she's connected to your family's past." Lena thought back to the old photo, the girl who looked exactly like her. The mirror. Her grandmother's strange sayings about the house, remembering. When the power returned, Lena stormed into her grandmother's old study, digging through drawers until she found a locked tin box. Inside, faded photographs, brittle letters, and a small locket containing a picture of a girl, her mirror twin. The note beneath it read, "To my sister, Elise." Chapter 18, The Ritual of Return. Lena froze, her skin crawling as the voice from the mirror whispered again, soft, quivering, achingly familiar. "Elise is waiting. It's time to bring her home." "Grandma," Lena whispered, her throat tight. "How are you?" The reflection rippled, and from within the glass, a faint outline appeared. Not the dark-eyed girl this time, but the gentle, wrinkled face of her grandmother, Margaret. Her eyes were wet, pleading. Dr. Calder stepped closer, recording the phenomenon with trembling hands. "It's a conduit," he muttered, "a bridge between generations. The entity uses memory as bait." But the old woman's reflection wasn't malevolent. "Lena," she said, "I tried to stop her. But Elise, she's been trapped for a century. The mirror keeps her alive and hungry." Lena's pulse thundered. "How do I stop it?" Her grandmother's reflection hesitated. "You can't destroy it. Only replace it." Calder frowned. "Replace it? With what?" The answer came in a whisper so faint it almost vanished in the hum of the glass. "With blood of the same line, freely given." Lena's heart dropped. "She wants me." The reflection of her grandmother began to fade, her voice breaking apart like static. "If you perform the ritual, she'll come for you at midnight. Choose wisely, my dear." Then the light inside the mirror blinked out, leaving only Lena's own pale reflection staring back. Chapter 19, Midnight Reflections. The clock struck midnight. Lena sat alone in front of the mirror, candles flickering around her. Each flame trembled as if sensing what was about to happen. Dr. Calder waited nervously outside the room, his voice low through the door. "You don't have to do this, Lena. We can find another way." But deep down, she knew there wasn't another way. Her grandmother's message was clear. The curse needed blood of the same line hers. She took a shaky breath and whispered the words written on the yellowed note from the box. "Mirror of the lost, vessel of the seen, open the way between the has-been and the being." For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the mirror's surface began to shimmer like liquid silver. The reflection of her room dissolved, replaced by a cold, misty corridor stretching endlessly behind the glass. And standing in it was her twin, Elise. She smiled faintly, tilting her head in that uncanny, perfect way. "You came." Lena's throat tightened. "What do you want from me?" Elise stepped closer, her voice smooth as silk. "Not your life. Your place." The candles flickered wildly, one by one going out. The air grew colder, heavy. Lena reached toward the mirror, and so did Elise. Their fingertips touched the glass. And this time, it didn't feel solid. Chapter 20, The Crossing. The moment their fingers met, a pulse of icy energy surged through Lena's body. The mirror rippled like water under a storm. Her breath caught. She couldn't pull away. Elise's cold hand pressed tighter against hers, and in that instant, their reflections began to blur together. "Lena!" Dr. Calder burst into the room, shouting. The candles had blown out, plunging everything into a dim, bluish glow from the mirror. "Step back. She's trying to pull you through." Lena tried to move, but her arm was already half submerged in the glass. The sensation was unbearable, like being pulled through freezing tar. Elise's eyes widened with hunger. "You've opened the gate," she whispered. "Now you belong here." Calder lunged forward, grabbing Lena's waist. "Hold on," he yelled, straining to pull her free. The mirror's surface swirled violently, like a vortex sucking in everything around it. Then, a blinding flash of light, followed by silence. When the glow faded, Calder fell backward, gasping. The mirror was cracked, its surface dim, and Lena was gone. Only a faint reflection remained. The image of a girl, standing in the misty corridor beyond the glass, staring out at him with calm, resigned eyes. "Lena," he whispered, voice trembling. The reflection smiled faintly. But the voice that answered wasn't hers. It was Elise's. She's home now. Chapter 21. Trapped in the reflection. Lena's scream echoed into nothingness as she stumbled forward, straight onto the cold, endless floor of the mirrored world. The air was heavy, still, and colorless. Everything shimmered faintly, as though light existed but had forgotten warmth. She turned around, expecting to see the mirror, but there was no frame, no wall, just miles of glass stretching into infinity. Her reflection multiplied endlessly in every direction. Thousands of Lenas staring back, each one a fraction slower than the real her. "Hello," she called out. Her voice bounced, distorted, repeating itself from every direction until it became a haunting chorus. Then she heard footsteps. From the fog emerged Elise, the girl with her face only sharper, colder, too perfect to be human. "You shouldn't have come," Elise said gently. "This place doesn't let you leave." Lena glared. "You stole my life." Elise smiled sadly. "No, I borrowed it. You're the reflection now, Lena." As she spoke, Lena glanced down, and her reflection in the mirrored floor moved a split second faster than she did. It smiled when she didn't. Panic clawed at her chest. She backed away, but her reflection leaned closer, whispering through the glass beneath her feet. "You'll get used to it." "I did." And as she turned to run, the world around her began to bend, the mirrors folding in like a closing book. Chapter 22. Elise's World. The mirrored world twisted around Lena like a living maze. Each step she took shifted the landscape, hallways looping back into themselves, doorways leading to rooms that repeated infinitely. It was like being trapped inside a dream that refused to end. The air shimmered faintly, filled with whispers. Some sounded like her own voice, others like the voices of people long gone. Stay with us," they murmured. Lena pressed her hands against a nearby wall of glass and saw flashes, moments from other lives. A woman crying in 1924, a boy staring into his bathroom mirror in the 80s, a young girl brushing her hair in 2003. All of them staring back, all of them trapped. Then she saw Elise again, sitting calmly on a silver bench, her reflection split 1,000 times across the mirrored horizon. "This is my world now," Elise said softly. "And yours too. Every reflection is a doorway. Every face that's ever looked into the glass lives here." Lena's voice trembled. "Why me?" "Because you're the last one," Elise whispered. "When you came, the circle closed. The mirror doesn't need to take any more." Lena stared, horror dawning. "So you're saying it's complete now?" Elise nodded slowly. "Until someone else looks too long." The silence that followed felt heavier than death itself. Chapter 23. The Scientist's Desperation. Back in the real world, Dr. Calder stood before the cracked mirror, trembling. The lab was in chaos. Papers strewn across the floor, instruments sparking, the air thick with static. He called Lena's name again and again, but only his own echo answered. Her reflection was gone. Completely gone. He slammed his fists against the table. No, not another one. On the floor beside him lay his research notes. Diagrams of resonance waves, energy fields, and neural feedback loops, all pointing to one horrifying conclusion. The mirror wasn't a surface. It was a system. A living one. He replayed the footage from the camera he'd set up during the ritual. Frame by frame, he watched as Lena's body blurred, flickered, then vanished entirely into the glass. "I can't lose her," he muttered. "Not like the others." He looked down at his hand, the pale, feminine hand that wasn't his own, and an idea began to take shape. If the mirror responded to bloodlines, maybe any part of it could serve as a key. He tore open his sleeve, grabbed a shard of the cracked mirror and pressed it against the transformed skin. A pulse of light rippled through the room. The mirror hummed. Then, faintly, Lena's voice echoed from the glass. "Dr. Calder?" He froze. "Lena, is that you?" "You have to hurry," she whispered. "She knows you're trying to follow." Chapter 24. The Last Reflection. The mirror began to glow, soft and silver, as Dr. Calder leaned closer. Lena's face flickered in the glass, pale, frightened, but alive. "Listen to me," she said urgently. "She's trying to seal this world. Once it closes, no one leaves. Not me, not you." Calder's pulse hammered in his ears. "Tell me how to bring you back." But before she could answer, Elise appeared behind her. The reflection darkened, twisting, warping the light. Elise's grin stretched impossibly wide as her voice slid through the glass like a hiss. "You don't belong here, Doctor. This world isn't for you." Calder gritted his teeth. "Maybe not, but I'm not leaving her." He pulled a scalpel from his pocket and sliced his palm, letting blood drip onto the cracked mirror. The surface shimmered, reacting instantly, as though it recognized something in his DNA. Elise recoiled. "What are you doing?" "Equal exchange," Calder muttered. "If it feeds on lineage, then I'll offer my own." The mirror's hum turned into a roar. Light exploded across the room, throwing him backward. For a brief moment, he saw Lena reaching out from the other side, her hand pressing against his. Then the mirror cracked one final time, splitting from corner to corner like a spiderweb. The glow faded, and both of them, Lena and Calder, were gone. Only their reflections remained, smiling faintly from the other side. Chapter 25. The Girl in the Mirror. Weeks later, the house was silent again. The mirror sat where it always had, now covered with a white sheet. No one dared to touch it. Lena's parents told the police she had vanished one night. No forced entry, no sign of struggle. Dr. Calder's disappearance was filed as a separate case. No one connected the two, but every now and then the sheet would move. Just slightly. One rainy evening, a real estate agent arrived to prepare the house for sale. As he passed the hallway, he stopped. The mirror was uncovered. He frowned. "Strange," he muttered. "I thought." Then he saw it. A girl, standing perfectly still in the reflection. Her hair damp, her eyes soft but empty. He turned around. No one was there. When he looked back, the girl smiled. Just a little. Her lips moved soundlessly, but the words were unmistakable. "Don't look too long." He stumbled back, heart pounding, and hurried out of the house. Behind him, the mirror flickered faintly, showing two silhouettes now. One with wide, curious eyes, and one watching from behind her, her hand resting gently on her shoulder. Elise and Lena. Together. Forever. The screen fades to black. And just before the outro music swells, the faintest whisper can be heard. "Who's staring back now?"